So earlier this week, I was finishing up some things at my office in Epworth, and it was probably about 4:30, 5 o'clock or so, and the doorbell rang, and everyone was already gone by then, so I went and answered the door, and here is this woman, one of the parishioner, and we'll call her Sally, because I'm not going to give you her real name, but she's at the door, and she's got her walker, and she's coming to the door, and so I'm like, oh, what's going on here? So I open the door, and I'm like, Sally, what's going on? And she's like, oh, Father, I just came to drop off some money for the hurricane victims because you're having that collection. And I said, oh, well, that's very nice. So I had to kind of help her get into the door. There's a little bit of a lip on the door. I had to get the walker up and over it and make sure she didn't trip and all these different things. And I said, Sally, if you would have called me, I would have come over to your house and just picked up this check. She goes, well, why, Father? I'm perfectly capable of getting out. I'm like, oh, okay, if you think so, that'd be just fine. She says, well, Bill said I had to come. Again, her husband, not his real name. Bill said I had to get this check up here. And, he's really in bad shape. He just can't go out. I'm like, okay, sure, that's not a problem. But it reminded me of, kind of our individual nature of how we, in a sense, think that we can take care of everything all by ourselves. Any sort of adversity or any sort of problem or any sort of difficulty that comes our way, we often think, I don't need any help. I can do this by myself. Our scripture readings today say that is not necessarily true. That maybe you can try, but if it doesn't work or if you need some help, it is okay to ask others. And that includes when it comes to the aspect of seeking forgiveness or seeking to right someone who is doing something very, very wrong. Now, the other part of our society, of the way we are, is a lot of times, as part of our individual nature, we believe very strongly that another person's thing is another person's thing. It's their business. It's none of my business whatsoever. But if they are doing tremendous harm to themselves or to you, or you can see that they're doing tremendous harm to someone else, do we not somewhat have an obligation to intervene? The prophet Ezekiel says we absolutely do. And if we don't, then the judgment and the guilt is on us. We do have a responsibility to others. We are not an island unto ourselves. We are a community of people, and we have an obligation and a responsibility to one another. Now, Jesus lays out kind of clearly, it's almost like a policy manual that we hear today, that when it comes to forgiveness, this is how it is to go. First of all, if someone wrongs you and you need to forgive them or they need to forgive you, go and have a conversation with them. That's not send them a text, that's not send them an email, and it certainly isn't putting it on Facebook. Go and talk to them one-on-one, Jesus says. That's the first thing that you need to do. Go and have a conversation with them and say, you know what, I think we're having some difficulty here. This is what I'm seeing. I think this is what we need to work on. And listen to them. That's not easy to do. We don't like to do that. We don't like confrontation. Like we just kind of think it's like, if we just avoid it, it'll just kind of go away, right? Not necessarily the case. It is something that always just kind of lingers and it festers, and over time, it does grow. So it's important to be proactive about it. And I think that's what Jesus is saying. Have the guts, have the courage, have the conviction to go and to have a conversation. Is that not what you want others to do for you? Rather than, in a sense, kind of talking about you to other people, would you not want them to have and come and have a conversation with you? That's basically what he's saying. Be upfront, be honest about it. Now, if you don't get resolution, you don't get any sort of satisfaction from that, then maybe you need to involve others. But you do it in a way that is loving, that's gentle, that's kind. And it just kind of continues on, 2 or 3 witnesses. And if that doesn't work, then you involve the church. And if that doesn't work, then you treat them like Gentiles or tax collectors. Well, that's kind of interesting. What does that mean? Well, if you look at the scriptures and you follow Jesus' example, how did he treat Gentiles who were foreigners, non-Jews, and how did he treat tax collectors? He sat down at a table and he ate with them. That means you be patient. You doggedly don't give up. You never give up. And you constantly, continuously go back again and again and again. Now, all of this is done out of the notion of love that St. Paul says. Now, love is one of those words I think that we use so often that we kind of lose the deep meaning of what truly it is. At a couple of weddings this weekend, in weddings, couples, they like to use that reading from St. Paul's letter to the Corinthians. Love is patient, love is kind, is always ready to give and to forgive. Love never fails.